Hello everyone and welcome to Zoo Tours, the channel that explores one zoo exhibit at a time and teaches you about Earth's amazing creatures along the way. But we're going to be doing something a little different today. I felt like sharing my top biggest zoo misses, mistakes, instances of crying and whining, and inconveniences. When you go to as many zoos as I do, and as often as I do, it's only natural to run into a few letdowns along the way, whether it's bad timing, closures, or just plain bad luck. I imagine when this happens to a regular zoo visitor, like let's say an animal is off exhibit, they can just brush it off. But when you visit zoos the way that I do, I need every single major animal to cooperate to be able to make an episode. So just a heads up, I've only had one truly bad zoo visit. So most of this is a list of very mild and petty inconveniences. None of them were actually the zoo's fault. And if you happen to visit these zoos, you can also learn from some of these mistakes. So let's get to number 9, the Sleeping Savannah. The Serengeti Safari at Busch Gardens, Tampa is one of the greatest add-on zoo experiences out there. The very first time I jumped on the back of that safari truck as a kid, I could just tell that something amazing was about to happen. The animals were cooperating so much that it felt staged. Since this took place in 2009, I don't have any footage of it, but I remember the ostriches running about, crowned cranes were showing off their wings, an eland was so close that one of their horns almost went through the holes on the truck bed's side fencing. A mother rhino and her calf were literally chasing us away, and as it always does, the experience concluded with a giraffe feeding. The safari was life-changing, so I tried to recapture the magic around 13 years later. I mean, the giraffe feeding was still incredible, but there wasn't much movement on the other 65 acres. These shots pretty much give a general view of what we saw most of the time, and I was wondering, why were things so different? Well, about halfway through, I realized the 2009 encounter took place in the cool evening, while the most recent one took place around noon. Zoos do say that animals are most active at dawn and dusk, and somehow I, of all people, forgot that important rule. At least I know, and now you know, just in case if you ever want to sign up for the safari yourself. Number 8. Penguins at night. Who doesn't love a good nocturnal house? I do. There's something fascinating about being surrounded by darkness while animals pass right by you. But not really fun when the animal is a penguin. We're not talking about a nocturnal house, by the way. It's SeaWorld Orlando's Antarctica Empire of the Penguin. Like Busch Gardens, I was visiting for the first time in years, hoping to recapture some childhood wonder. Overall, it definitely worked around the park. The pre-show in Antarctica blew my mind, and then I stepped into the habitat of pitch black darkness. I had also completely forgotten that it was summer, our summer, which means it's the dead of winter in Antarctica, and it looks like this all the time. SeaWorld's been replicating real Antarctic light cycles since I think around the 80s, and I believe they were one of the first places to try it. It was amazing to see penguins in this setting, but not exactly ideal for filming an episode. Thankfully, I returned in our winter, Antarctica's summer, and with the help of my friend Johnny's summer footage, I was able to make a positive out of a negative and covered both seasons for the episode. Number 7. Ghost Town in Omaha. Omaha, Nebraska, of all places, has one of the best zoos in the world. Even in winter, there's usually enough to make a visit worthwhile. So at this point, I already covered the Lee Jungle, Aquarium, and Desert Dome on the channel, but I felt that we were really due for another Omaha episode. And all I really needed was outdoor footage of the Sea Lion Shores and Asian Highlands. It was late November, but both of these feature cold-tolerant species, so I figured that it could work out. To be safe, I did ask around online to find out what animals would actually be visible in the winter. A local confidently told me every single animal would be outside no matter the conditions. I did think that it would be strange to film African wildlife under a gray sky with bare trees, but I guess if the animals were out, the 10-hour drive would be worth it even more. So I got there and no. African grasslands? Nothing. Outdoor parts of Madagascar? Empty. The apes and company? Either inside or completely missing. Even some of the animals in Asian Highlands were off display. So lesson learned from a zoo tour guide's perspective, unless the zoo is closer to the equator, it's probably best not to go in the winter. Number 6. Critically acclaimed closures. These 4 exhibits that I'm about to talk about have 2 things in common, so I'm just going to group them together. Detroit Zoo's Arctic Ring of Life, their own Penguin Conservation Center, Zoo Miami's Wings of Asia, and Toledo's Museum of Science. All are award-winning and often considered the best of their kind for either polar bear husbandry, theatrics and technology combined with penguins, a massive walk-in aviary, and the museum is so unique and diverse I don't even know how to describe it. So imagine my excitement to finally visit and film all of these, only to find the Arctic Tunnel was leaking, the Penguin Complex was closed for 29 months, also I think due to a leak, Wings of Asia shut down to add room for kiwis, which I don't even know if that happened yet, and then the Toledo Zoo's museum was closed for an orchid show. Number 5. The Hap Zoo Confusion. Now some of those closures that I did mention taught me to reach out ahead of time and ask if there was anything off display or closed. And that habit became especially useful in 2020, when zoos started to reopen, but not completely. I'm sure some people were grateful enough to just be able to visit zoos, but me, I wasn't eager to visit a zoo if half the experience was missing. So I messaged several zoos on Facebook, looking for the one that was pretty much completely open. One zoo, which I won't name, though you can just figure it out from the footage, sent me a link outlining their updates. But from what I recall, it didn't actually say what was closed. So I ended up driving 10 hours to visit, and while 2 of its major zones were open, the other half of the park was completely closed. And even in the ones that were open, a lot of animals were missing. So that trip kind of killed the momentum, and I haven't gone back since. Number 4. The Chicago Curse. There's also a reason the Chicago's Lincoln Park Zoo isn't as well represented on the channel as much as I'd like it to be, because I'm afraid to go back. There just has to be some kind of curse. Every time I go, something goes wrong that prevents me from doing what I need to do. And by the way, I'm not mad or blaming the zoo. I'm just stating what's happened. One time we had to leave due to a family emergency. Then, when I was thinking about visiting early this year, they closed their birdhouse due to bird flu complications. Another time, the new lion house was closed for half the day, which put me behind schedule. The apes do prefer to stay indoors, and sometimes the crowd can make you feel claustrophobic. I haven't seen the otters in years. I've never seen the beaver. The children's zoo is sometimes closed to prevent people from disrupting wild black-crowned night herons and their nesting. And the last time that I was there, the African Journey, Arctic Tundra, penguins, birdhouse, and birds of prey were closed due to a special event. A kind of event that usually only takes place after hours at other zoos. Again, I'm not blaming anyone, and I don't mean to sound insensitive, but it just feels like something or someone doesn't want me going back to Lincoln Park. Number 3. Stuck at the Station. The Oakland Zoo in California has one of the best North American themed exhibits you could ever see. The catch is, if you want to see it, you have to take a 4-minute gondola ride uphill. And believe me, it is worth it for the views of the Bay Area alone. From a regular zoo visitor's perspective, this is perfect. From a ZooTuber's perspective, there was just one problem. Well, for one, it took me an hour to park on a weekday in February, which was a major setback. Then the line to get up the gondola was about 25 minutes. 25 minutes that could have been spent filming in other parts of the zoo. Then when I got up there, the wolves and mountain lions were no-shows, and it just didn't feel right not to feature them. However, I did need to go back to film the rest of the zoo, so I decided I would cover the rest of the park and come back up the hill. Well, not everything cooperated either, and there was a lot of going back and forth, and my camera was a little emptier than usual. The gondola also stops taking people up an hour before the zoo closes, so I knew I had to go back up to the California Trail to get the wolves and mountain lions. I waited another 25 minutes, and did get what I need, but also didn't have time to fill in the gaps in the lower part of the zoo. And I also didn't even get to see the entire place, and missed out on their Australia and Children's Zoo sections. Number 2. Shortsighted in the Bronx. I don't need to explain how big of a deal the Bronx Zoo is, so naturally, I had a little anxiety that something might go wrong. Just getting to New York alone felt like a win, and I didn't want to push my luck any further. I entered through the south gate, and right away, boom, look what's there to greet me. Jungle World, one of the greatest exhibits ever made, and it felt like nothing could go wrong. But I was only at my second animal, the tree kangaroo. So I started filming from every angle and focal point as much as I could. But in my excitement, I got clumsy. Here's a light demonstration. While switching from my long lens to my short one, I basically yanked it off, destroying the sensors and leaving the lens unable to focus or stabilize. I freaked out, thought I just wasted a bunch of time and money to get here, and was actually about to go home. It also didn't help that every major store in New York that could have helped me was closed on Saturdays. I still had my short lens, but my standards really require a lot more than that, and I felt so bad that I wouldn't be able to give my viewers the best quality video possible. But after panicking for about an hour, I tried to make the best of it, filmed as much as I could with my short lens, and still made 5 near and dear to my heart episodes, which you can start right here in the corner. And number 1, the San Diego Spiral. I've mentioned this before, but this was the day that made me start seeing the San Diego Safari Park as a little overrated, at least from a visitor standpoint. The animal care though, obviously top tier. Everything that could go wrong, did go wrong. Well, there was one bright spot. A kind Zoo Tours viewer gave me their ticket, so I was able to get in for free. But right away, I could tell I was not prepared for this. This is not your typical zoo. It's huge, hilly, and spread out, and that's exactly why I made a video afterwards to help others know what to expect. This was also the day I swore off trusting zoo maps. They don't show the terrain, and the safari park's map definitely doesn't show its scale. From the entrance, if you want to start from left to right, your first big stop is a 7-minute walk away. At most zoos, to get to the very first major exhibit that they have, it's usually like a 30-second stroll. I realize that this sounds entitled and selfish, but as a ZooTuber on a schedule, I had a bad feeling early on. I was walking up this boardwalk for what felt like forever and was wondering where on earth is Australia. But when I finally got there, the platypus was off exhibit until late in the day. So I had to keep circling back around, and what didn't help is that the path from the tiger trail that connected to the Elephant Valley was closed. So I had to backtrack a bunch of times, and I'm pretty sure that I logged about 12 miles that day. When the platypus finally came out around 3 p.m., we also only got 30 seconds to see it. But it wasn't just the platypus. A lot of the other creatures were either not cooperating or they were completely off exhibit. And also on top of that, the directions of the trails are not very clear, and it did make it hard to find a lot of key points. I somehow missed hundreds and hundreds of acres of exhibit space. Overall, it was the very first and only zoo visit where I left with nothing. Thankfully though, I was prepared, and my next visit went a lot better. Although the directions can still be a pain.